Everybody, Aspen signals and says we're broadcasting. Are we really broadcasting? She thinks we're broadcasting. Hi, everyone. We're a little late today. I was not feeling well.
Yes, we hope he's not really sick because we are currently sitting in close proximity to him. But I think it's more just, sometimes you feel a little off. So.
No, I think it was a medicine reaction.
Oh.
I took that new one for the first time this morning.
Okay.
And that is what it feels like. It's like when I have a reaction to something. Because it came on like out of nowhere, and then now it subsided.
Okay.
But I'll bet it was from that new blood pressure medicine. Yeah. I'm taking a new blood pressure medicine. Well, hey everyone, welcome to Salt, where we pour out our health issues and talk about them.
Make sure and put your comments below.
Yeah. I am my father. Oh, I am my father. Oh my gosh, I am so much my dad. There was my one of my moms posted. I have two moms, like many in America, and my Kathy, my mom in North Carolina, she posted a picture of her and my dad, and I hadn't remembered it. I mean, I sort of remembered it. It looked familiar, but I didn't remember it looking like that. And I told her, "Oh, this is a good photo. I don't remember." She said, "Oh, she had a photograph painted, and now it hangs over their fireplace."
Oh, so that's why it would look
slightly familiar. And then but I used to see my dad growing up, and later in life, he was always taking a handful of pills every day and blood pressure, and now that's me. Yay!
And we're thankful you're still here.
Thankful we're still alive. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, so that was, how long has it been since Dad died?
Let me see, there was 6 years, 6, 7, 8. 8.5 maybe?
8.5, something, yeah. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
I think it used to be, a lot of my life was driving and, early college, high school too, late high school, college, and afterwards was a lot of traveling, and a lot of it was to go see Dad or Mom, and I remember driving all over the place from where I was at, back to North Carolina to see Dad. Mm-hmm. And I said that's sort of what we're talking about today is trips.
Yes, trips. That's right. And yesterday, what got me started on this as a topic?
Wait.
What?
We took a trip to North Carolina.
Yeah, we took multiple trips there.
Would y'all like to see some of that? I tried to find. I found a little video we made when we were on one of those trips, and it was just like a little teaser trailer from iMovie, and
that one.
I got it, but there was a couple of parts that for some reason the pictures came out all pixelated, and I know they're not because I posted it on Facebook, but I couldn't find it. But I did find the longer version of the trip where we went down to North Carolina, and we then were going across the country for some. Oh, we were going to Randy and Brittany's. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, if you'd like to see some of what the Hadleys do on their road trips,
fun, yes.
Here's our our road trip day one across the country.
Just keep in mind, this was probably about 10 years ago. We looked significantly younger.
Yeah,
but we were significantly younger.
We were significantly younger.
Yes.
So was Aspen. So, all right, day one, trip across the country.
On the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. The wheels on the bus go round and round, all through the town. Holiday road, holiday road. The babies on the bus go wah, wah, wah. Wah, wah, wah. Wah, wah, wah. The babies on the bus go wah, wah, wah. All through town.
Jack be nimble, Jack be quick. Take a ride on the West Coast Kid. Holiday road. Holiday road.
The doors on the bus go open and shut. Open and shut. Open and shut. The doors on the bus go open and shut. All through the town.
Oh, sweetie, can we pull over to the next stop for a bathroom?
If we keep stopping like this, we are never going to get there.
But it's been 2 hours since we stopped last, and I drank a whole quart of carrot juice since
You're the
then.
only one that needs to go.
Daddy, I need
Oh.
to use bathroom.
Yeah, see, now it's catching.
Yeah, well, maybe you should catch it.
Well, all right, fine. The next exit we see, we'll pull over.
Oh, look, there's an exit right here.
What?
Right here.
Where?
Yes, right here.
No, that's not really
It's
the
right
exit.
there.
No, that's not there.
See it?
Oh, we
It
missed
is
it. I'm so
there.
sorry.
Oh, here comes the next exit, sweetie.
Really? Where? I don't see one. Oh, look, there it is, right there.
I found out long ago. It's a long way down the Holiday Road. Holiday Road. Holiday
Oh, sweetie, speed limit's 70.
Gotta go with the flow of the traffic, honey. Flow of the traffic.
Yeah, well, your flow of the traffic must be flowing backwards because you are passing everyone.
Look, what you don't understand is highway math. Highway math says whatever it's posted, you go 5 more, and that's what you can do. So 70 plus 5. Aspen, what is 70 plus 5?
75.
That's right.
Well, I don't quite understand that because you were doing 75, you were doing 85.
I was never very good at math. That's why I teach Bible.
Yes, you do teach Bible. The law and the prophets, to be exact.
That's right.
And I am going to prophesy that you are going to be pulled over soon.
Daddy, what did the blue lights mean?
What? Okay, I can keep driving. I'm good to go.
No thanks. I have spent enough time already in Death Race 2014.
Fine.
I found out long ago. It's a long way down the Holiday Road. Holiday Road. Holiday Road. Jack be nimble, Jack be quick. Take a ride on the West Coast Kid.
You know, the speed limit is 70.
Yep.
You're doing 65.
Yep.
We talked about highway math, right?
Yep.
Maybe I'll just look out the window and watch the cows go by.
Hello, rock. Hello, tree. Hello, horses. Hello, cows.
Yeah, the cows are passing us now.
Yep.
Holiday Road. Holiday Road. Holiday Road. Holiday Road.
Oh, thank goodness we're finally here at the hotel. All right, let's go inside, Aspen.
Okay. Didn't we wake up Daddy?
Oh, he'll still be here in the morning.
Hey everyone! So that was fun. That was from Hendersonville, North Carolina to Fort Collins, Colorado. That's the first leg of the trip. And the next part, and then we were there for like 3 weeks or something. And then we went from there. We went up to, where were they living at the time? Went to see Randy and Brittany.
Oh, they lived in Seattle.
Was it in Seattle?
Yeah,
Okay,
they
yeah.
lived in Seattle.
So yeah, I had a snack while you were watching, and we talked about the trip and how when the car we bought that you saw was very clean, and I was determined to keep it that way. And that went out the window 2 days after Aspen got in. It was no hope, no chance of keeping it clean ever again. But we certainly had a lot of fun along the way, so that was fun. Anyway, so yeah, we're talking about traveling, which we don't do anymore, by the way.
Oh, we haven't in a while.
We used to
that's
travel
right.
so much.
Yes, well, we used to live much closer to your father.
Yeah, that's true. Yep, and I don't know, just other places we've lived, there were more places to travel.
You're right. Between Nebraska and Texas now, it's a little harder to find some place like day trip kind of stuff to go to.
Yeah, Waco's about it.
Yeah, we've pretty well hit up anything here, and we tried really, really hard in Lincoln, but day trips are hard to find.
Day trips are hard to find around
Yeah,
here.
we tried it, and it's like cornfield, another cornfield, another cornfield, another
Yeah.
cornfield, and so you'd end up stopping at some, remote little town, eating at a local cafe, and then
Yeah.
turning around and watching the same old, cornfields go past.
Yeah.
And
There was that one. What was the name of it? And we found it, and I don't know that we knew that it was big and famous at the time, but
oh right, yeah,
but it was in this, I don't know, 5-building town with the main street was dirt. It was Bubba's something.
I think it was just Bubba's.
Was it just Bubba's? Yeah, and it was like really good. And then I think we looked it up later, and I found out, oh, well, this is a big famous place, and it's in the middle of nothing, And again, like a dirt road with 5, and that's the town. It's like, how did this happen? But yeah, that was interesting. But anyway, we have some traveling stories to tell you.
Yeah, well, I got started on the traveling stories kick yesterday when my oldest daughter and they were in Tri-Cities, Washington, which is about an hour from where they live in Walla Walla, because they're waiting on the flight to land so that they could get on and fly up to Seattle and then various other destinations after that. I think they're going to New York as well.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they said they were going to New York.
Yeah, I don't remember if that's before New Year's or after, but thereabouts.
Why? Wait, I have no idea why anyone would go to New York.
It's true. We went, and
Not
we
a fan.
went. Yeah. So
New York City, I should say.
yeah. So, anyways, it was about 3 in the afternoon finally, and she said, well, the plane had circled and circled and circled and circled until finally they needed to turn around and head back to Seattle because it was so foggy that they couldn't land. And I said, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, isn't that kind of unusual? And she said, well, it wasn't terribly unusual for that time of year. Well, there was nothing left for them to do except drive back to Walla Walla, which is about an hour's drive on a curvy, narrowish 2-lane road. So I was a little concerned that they're driving in the fog in that kind of weather. But when I texted her later about that, she said, "Oh no," she said, "the fog is cleared up now." So who knows why these things happen sometimes, right? But the plane, if they wouldn't turn around, then they were going to run out of fuel, and that is not a good thing. So, what?
Travel tips from Miranda. When the plane runs out of fuel, That's not good.
Well, see, when I lived in Alaska, it wasn't unusual at all for the flight to circle and circle, and then finally they would, if they couldn't, if the clouds did not open just right so that the plane could land, the pilot would say, well, we're going to circle one more time and then we'll have just enough fuel to get back to Anchorage. And so, of course, you want to land, whether it's back in Anchorage or your destination there in Kodiak. But
Oh yeah.
anyways,
That's like Aspen. I used to live in Aspen, Colorado, and there was one airport, and there was only one airline, United, were the only ones certified to fly into the Aspen airport, and especially under foggy conditions, because there was this during the winter you'd get snow and fog and you'd get socked in, and when people would like when I was looking around, I was there and I was looking around for a job, and people wanted to fly me out to interview me for things, and they would always say, so where do you need to fly out of? And Denver would be the cheapest, and I'd always tell them, okay, so you can fly me out of Denver, but you got a 60-40 chance I'll actually get there because of the snow and there's only one road out of Aspen, and there's just the one highway down to Denver, and it could get locked in by ice and snow and rock slides and stuff. I said, or you can fly me out of Aspen, and I will get there, because the rich and famous don't ever shut their airport down, apparently. But when I flew out of there the first time, I realized why you had to get certified, because it's Aspen, so it's on top of the mountains, and so as you take off, as I remember, if you've ever ridden in a plane, take off, you take and you go up, and and in Aspen you take off, and then you go like almost vertical, so you don't slam into the side of the mountain apparently. So you're right there, and all of a sudden you're like this, and then landing was the same thing. You're like, oh, we'll be landing here, and it's like roller coaster, but that's how they have to do it because they're surrounded by mountains.
Yeah, well, Kodiak was pretty interesting as well in that the runway, one end of it was literally the mountain. I mean, end of runway, 2-lane road, mountain, or the other end was the ocean. And so depending on how the winds were blowing, you would either take off towards the water or you would take off towards the mountains. And most of the time we ended up taking off towards the water, but you're lumbering on down the runway, and you're wondering if you're ever going to take off. Yeah. And you take off, you literally pull up just before you get to the water. Wow. And then same with the mountain, of course, you'd get to just right at the end, and then you'd turn and make a sharp turn as you got up in the air. But
man, yeah, those planes that like don't have enough runway. There's no extra runway in a Kodiak.
No, there's not. I mean, you're using every spare inch of that.
Did they tell you that when you get on the plane? So on this plane ride, you might get wet.
No. Why? I'm
That's
sure everybody
funny.
has enough. Thoughts about that anyways. No need to enhance that. So.
Yeah.
Anyways, we just thought we would relate some travel stories because we're headed into the New Year's, and just like we make our plans, right? Just like we make plans for traveling and make plans for going into the new year and with New Year's resolutions and whatever else. And sometimes those plans happen, and sometimes they don't.
And they never happen the way you plan them to happen. At least my trips don't. No matter how well, I remember back in the day, before GPS and everything, you get mad. Well, first, you would just get the big paper maps. I remember being so proud that I had all these paper maps in my glove box because I could go anywhere and I would have a map for that part of the country, And then, you remember when, was it Rand McNally, whoever came out with, maps you could print, and then Google had their own maps you could print.
Yeah.
Man, I would like waste half a ream of paper on a 30-minute trip, turn by turn, every page at its own turn. Yeah. It was so cool, but you could plan away, but no, it never happens the way you think it's going to happen.
Yeah, always something.
Something comes up. Yeah.
So, anyways, just one of the travel stories I have from Kodiak is like, a lot of times you wouldn't have any flights in or out for days at a time because of either the wind or the fog or maybe some ice, I guess, but that usually wasn't too much of a problem because they would, keep their runways clean and such. But there hadn't been any flights in or out for 3 days because of the wind. But that day, since the wind died down, they were taking flights back and forth every hour just to get everybody back and forth. Well, I went to pick the kids up from school, and I had a regularly scheduled flight. And mine wasn't an extra flight. I had my flight scheduled, and it just happened to be within that time frame that they were taking flights in and out. Well, the teacher, when I picked the kids up from school, gave me a hard time about, oh, you're not going to make it out, you're not going to make it out. And I was like, oh, yes, we will. And we did. We made it out. We were actually, that trip, we were the last flight out again for however many days before the wind died down again. But it was interesting in that this teacher and his wife had a daughter who went to college down in the lower 48. And of course, she'd fly back for her breaks and such. And there was one break especially, they were waiting at the airport for her. And it was one of those times where it was really overcast and they couldn't see to land. And so they circled and circled and circled. And so finally they made the announcement in the airport that we're going to make one more circle. And if we can't land, we will be headed back. Of course, here's their college-age daughter and their only child, actually. And they really wanted her home and didn't want her to have to spend the night in Anchorage and such like that. And so they went outside and they prayed and they watched the sky. And someone else actually told me about it. They watched it happen as well. But they said the clouds just opened into a circle and the plane flew through and then it closed right back up behind the airplane. Of course, I can imagine that they were pretty excited to see God answer their plans like that.
I thought, where were they headed?
Where were they? Their daughter was coming home.
Okay. I thought, you took the ferry from Kodiak.
Oh, I used to do that sometimes too, yeah.
The ferry?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we would take the ferry and sometimes
It's in Alaska.
Yeah.
How come they never made a TV show out of that? There's Ice Truckers and Deadliest Catch. Should have been Fairies of Fury.
Anyways, as we journey through life, there are times that God does answer our prayers for us.
Tell them about the ferry.
Well, but I'm not done with this other story yet.
Oh,
yeah,
well, finish this story.
Half of the story. Okay.
All right, sorry.
So we went on our trip, the lower 48, probably went to see my sister and all this kind of stuff, And then as we came back, my sister took us to the airport, of course, dropped us off. And, you go in and you check in upstairs or whatever it is. And got that all taken care of. They say, go to gate such and such. So off we went and got to the gate. Now, sometimes when you get to the gate, they would want you to check in again, assign your seat or something like that. I don't know. And then other times you didn't have to recheck in again. And so there was someone there at the desk. So I went up and asked them, I says, well, I just checked in up front. Do I need to check in again here? Oh, no. If you did that, you're good. Oh, okay. And I was there way ahead of schedule.
Why do they do that?
I don't
They're
know.
all on the same computer. So did I get lost from checking in at the front desk to my, gate? Is somehow they thinking I'm going to disappear?
Yeah, I don't know, but sometimes you do have to check in both places.
You do.
Right?
That doesn't make sense. Well, anyway.
So I'm sitting there, like I said, nobody else was even there yet. But as I'm sitting there, eventually other people start to arrive, and next thing you know, there's this really long line, and I'm thinking, did I miss out on something here? What's going on? So eventually I get in line and I get up to the desk and I said to the person, I said, well, I asked if I needed to check in again, but now I see all these people and are they checking in again? Did I need to do that? And they said, well, we're sorry, but there are no seats left available on this plane. And I'm thinking to myself, how did this happen? I already checked in and you guys told me I didn't have to check in again. But actually, we would have had to spend part of the night on the plane. It was a later flight, getting to Seattle in the middle of the night and whatever. But that's how it goes. So they, of course, since they had messed up, they gave us vouchers for a hotel and for breakfast and such. And so we got on the flight probably 8 o'clock the next morning or so, and off we went. Got into Seattle or Anchorage about, 1, 2, 3 in the afternoon, something like that. And a flight had just returned from Kodiak and had unloaded, and people were in line trying to get on the next flight out. And I thought, all right, I am booked on the next flight, but clearly you could, I mean, I already knew by then, of course, that there hadn't been any flights in and out for once again like 3 days. And so I thought, well, I might try getting on this flight and see what happens. Well, no, I couldn't. I was already in the next flight, so just waited out. So we did, and a few hours later, I guess, I think it was a 90-minute flight, 3 hours round trip. Next thing you know, they were back, very same plane, unloaded all that luggage, unloaded those passengers, loaded us up, loaded our luggage up, took us on over, and it was one of those, it was called a banana peel because it had single seats on each side. And I don't think we circled. We got over there, and as soon as those wheels hit the runway, the entire plane cheered and clapped because finally, like once again, the first flight in several days. So sometimes we receive wrong information in life, right? Sometimes we believe lies and we live them out, and it doesn't work out so well. But
Your stories are long, you know that?
but sometimes on the other hand, I shouldn't say sometimes, all the time, all things work out together for good, though we cannot always see that happen at the moment. Okay, well, I'm done. If my stories are long, just go ahead.
Story. It's good for radio, though. That would be a great podcast.
Okay, well, it's your turn now. I'll just mind my own
travel
business
story.
over here.
I
You were
don't
going
know.
to tell a story.
I got so many of them. Any particular do we want? Fog, delays,
Just make sure it's
wrecks,
long, whatever it is, like really
None of mine
long.
are long. Mine are.
I can't help the stories aren't long.
You should read her, right? When her book comes out, you should read her because she's really, really good at like the descriptive detail. I don't know why I'm thinking of that, but I was just thinking about the angel book, the creation of the angel that is in your book.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And it's like, man, you feel like you're there. You got to, the people need to read. So hurry that book up. Anyway, let's see, an airplane
And don't
story.
worry, we don't have anybody interested in publishing it at this moment, so
But
just,
someone should be.
Not that we've
airplane.
tried for that story, so.
Well, hey, airplane stories.
Oh, airplane stories? But you have driving stories. That mountain one, we're driving in the fog and...
Yeah, I mean...
Driving with your brother.
Oh, I almost killed him once. That was fun.
That's a short story.
Well, we were driving from Chattanooga, Tennessee, down to Hendersonville, North Carolina, to see Dad. And there's two ways to do that. Two main ways. One, you take the highway, the interstate, and it's like 4 hours. But if you take the back way, and it's through Ocoee and Nottahala, and if those names don't sound familiar to you, back in was it the 90s when the Olympics were in Atlanta, they did all of the kayaking events and all of those Olympic water sports. They did them up in Ocoee in the Nottahala Forest. That was where they did them. And that's North Carolina. But if you go in really fast, you can make it in about 3 hours. It's 3.5 if you obey the law. But you're always trying to cut off some time. And so I'll never forget, it's 2-lane roads most of the way. And there was a semi, 2 cars, a semi, and 3 cars in front of us. But we got to this part where we come around a corner, and it's kind of a long old thing, bend around, and around another corner. So it's not, you just can't see in front of you. You can see that, and you can see across the, where if anything's coming, and nothing was coming. And I think Craig saw me glance over to the side, and he went, "Brett, no." And I took off trying to. So I passed the first 3 cars, no problem. I passed the first semi, no problem, and it's clear and everything. Then I passed 3 cars, and as soon as I'm getting clear, I'm up to the side of this last semi, and he starts honking. He's ticked that I'm, passing him. But no, just as soon as I got far enough to clear, there was a semi coming the other way. And it really was one of those situations where, and it's a 2-lane, and there's the side of the mountain, and then there's the semi. And I was yeah, it was one of those. I'm sure Craig was thinking, "That's it, we're dead," because there's nowhere to go. And but sure enough, just as we were coming around, there was and I don't even. It wasn't a pull off. It wasn't a rest area. It wasn't. It was just kind of like this little cutout, that really wasn't that big of a place, but right to the left of the mountain there. And I went for it, and I said, "Grab something," like he already wasn't. And I kicked it in, and I went into this place, and it was just big enough that I could get in, and I think when the semi came by, you couldn't put a piece of paper between the two of us. It was that close. And I hit it at like 80. And I hit this little thing, and it was gravel, and I pulled the emergency brake and whipped the wheel because no way we were going to brake and stop. If we were going to stop without crashing into the Rocky Mountain, we were going to have to slide to a stop. And so I did. I pulled it up, and I spun the wheel, and the car went sideways, and it stopped, and I had this on the car. I never did fix it. It stopped, and I just enough where when I hit the other side of the wall with my door, it didn't even really ding it. It just had this tiny little chip right where my door caught the side of the mountain. And I was just like, wow, that was cool. Then my brother hit me. He just really just hit me, dragged me out of the car, and then he drove the rest of the way. And we lost all the time I made up. We lost the whole thing there because he wouldn't let me finish driving. Yeah. Do what you want with that.
I was going to say, where's your spiritual analogy to that?
And the Lord said, "Do not be stupid."
Yeah. Well, we can be thankful that God does have the plan, and He sees. I mean, obviously, sometimes, things happen, but He knows the plan He has for our lives, and I know during, say, like Brett's unemployment, sometimes you just wonder where that way of escape is going to be, back into employment or back into being able to pay the bills and all this kind of such. And it's amazing really what God ends up doing for you.
I was going more for the patience part, like there's a plan, and I see that things like, I can do this on my own. And that's when we get in trouble.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. When we think we can do it on our own, that definitely is trouble.
Yeah,
It's
actually, this would have been perfect for your point, because as soon as we got just, 300 yards later, it turned into a 4-lane. I could have passed them all easily.
Yeah, so God sees the future, yes. But yeah,
I'm lucky to be alive.
Yeah,
I got all stories like that a bunch.
We do. We have our little plans,
but
we can't see into the future. I mean, if Brett could have seen and known that there was those lanes of. No, I thought you said, but you'd been on that road before.
Yeah, a couple times. This was early because Craig was still at college, and he was only there the first year I was there. So I think we'd only done it once before. Yeah.
Okay. So when we go on trips, we prepare, right? We pack a suitcase, and we're taking a road trip. I mean, maybe
half the kitchen.
Well,
You do. Or you used to.
Yeah.
You used to the big blender and
So maybe we pack a picnic lunch, because that's fun sometimes, and take some travel snacks, and we plan where we're going to stop for the night, and you plan where you're going and what you're going to do when you get there.
10 cases of water.
No, that too.
That was the first. One of the first, and get some water, and I'm thinking, we need a couple of bottles of water. No, we had to get 5 cases of water.
Because 5 cases wouldn't have fit in the car.
No, it was 3 at least.
Well, 1 maybe.
But it was one of the things I've learned from Miranda. Because before I didn't care about my body, and so I would drink, the water out of the faucet in the hotel, and sometimes it was really nasty. But you always had us bring our own water, which turned out to be very smart.
Yep. So I don't know about you guys, but I like to journal, devotional journal, and so I was noticing I was going to be finishing up my current journal probably just about the time of the end of the year. And so I thought, this is perfect. I don't think I've ever started a new journal directly at the new year. So I may have a few pages left in the old journal, but I am super excited to start my new journal on the first day of the year. And I picked one out with a text that we're all familiar with, And I don't usually I had avoided journals with this text before because it seemed rather cliche and overused. But the text that says, "For I know the plans that I have for you." But this one, had really pretty flowers on it, and it just seemed like a really good way, really good reminder of how to start the new year.
Are we done telling travel stories?
Oh, let me see. Yeah, I think we are done telling travel stories, unless you would like to tell some more.
We're gonna play a game. This will be fun.
Oh, no, it's not fun for me. I can tell this already.
It's so much fun. I'm going to tell a story, and Miranda's going to draw a spiritual point from it.
We'll see what I can do.
This will be fun. Okay, so I got a few of them. Okay, so another time I was driving home from Chattanooga to North Carolina, and actually I was going to South Carolina to see Mom this time. And I went the highway, and I remember... she wanted me to come for something, and I didn't want to get off work early because I had to get off work if I was going to be. And so, no, I don't want to go. I'll just leave when I get off work. I'll just leave when I get off work. And then, sure enough, about an hour before my shift ended, just like everything died. There was no business, there was no people, and so the manager said, "Oh, if you want to take off, you can check out. You're the next one to check out. So if you want to, go ahead and leave early." So I did. I ended up leaving an hour early, and I was driving around. I was going down, and I got through. There's the mountain pass on I-40 in I think it's Tennessee and North Carolina, but this part was in Tennessee. And man, the fog just came in, and it was one of those you couldn't see anything. It was nothing. You couldn't. The headlights just came right back at you as night. And I mean, I just kind of creeped my way through it. And I was probably an hour and a half going through this fog. It took forever. And then I got up to the other side, and I went down, and then I stopped in Nashville for gas and to eat. And I was so late, I just thought I should call my mom. So I called Mom, and my word, she was just almost in tears on the phone. I was like, "I'm sorry, I'm late. I'm on my way." She said, "No, there was a pileup on the highway that I was driving, and like 25, 30 people were dead because the fog, there was an accident, and of course people were driving, and I guess driving too fast, and they kept hitting each other, and it was one of these chain reactions where they just kept hitting each other, and finally one semi came through and just crunched a bunch of them. And I missed it by about 5 minutes."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is one of those things where this here goes along with the next part of what I was going to talk about. While we like to think we're making the plans for our lives, right? And Brett was like, "Well, I'll be leaving later than I would like to, but it'll be fine." Well, then turns out he actually gets to leave work an hour early, which is no doubt what saved him from that pileup.
Yeah.
And so, it's our choice whether we follow our plans or God's plans. But, he's the one with the plans. He's the one with the GPS. He's the one that can see into the future. He packs our suitcase with everything that we need. And there he was at Brett's work, and nobody was coming in, and so he got to leave early.
Yeah, which is an odd event that shouldn't have happened.
Right, and not only does he pack our suitcases, but he carries it for us as well, and he's made the plans for where we're to go and what we're to do while we're there. And all we need to do is decide if we can afford to go or not. And when you look back at Brett's life, like this job or that job and such, you can just see how sometimes the one job has prepared him for the next job, and such like that.
See, she has the positive outlook. Miranda always has the upside to things. I'm looking at it and going, "Well, that didn't work out." But it took her to come into my life and point these things out that seem kind of obvious now, but at the time I was like, "Well, that screwed up. Well, that didn't happen. Well, I don't know." But then, I don't know, the first time you said something about how when I was in California and I took ASL, and then that led to, me being able to get to camp, and that being at the camp led, give us a bridge to Vegas. And And it was like, oh, yeah, I guess you're right. One thing does lead to the next. Even if you don't, I mean, I had no idea. I didn't plan anything.
Right. At the time, you're just what comes available at the moment. And yet, once you've committed your life to God, I mean, you can believe that, yeah, sure, maybe you did make a mistake, maybe things didn't work out so well, but God has a plan.
And I will have to say, early on in my life, way back when I first started, I never had plans. And I really did tell God that a lot. I was just like, I don't have a plan. I'm just going to live life. And you promised that you were going to take me where you want me to go. So I'm just traveling along. And, but I used to always use that, I use it a lot. The, he will make your path straight.
Oh yeah. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding, and he will make your path straight. Proverbs 3, verse 5 and 6. I know that because it's written on a chalkboard in my office.
That was my theme for life. I used to pray that all the time. And then of course, there's no way I could look at it. But now, and as you point out, I look back and like, oh, I guess God really did do what he said he was going to do.
Yes.
Why are we always surprised when that happens?
Yeah, it's true, right? Yeah. Yes.
Anyway, she does journal a lot. I used to, but I think, at some point, I remember I kept trying it. Once, grad school. That's when I was so busy in grad school, and I should pick that up again. Mm-hmm. But she gets pretty journals. I use like pretty journals. 3-ring cheap binder things.
Well, I did. I started out, I first started journaling on a pink notepad thing, where it just flips across the top. And I thought, that was kind of cheap. And so then I went to Walmart, and I bought a cheap journal. And it started, like the binding started falling off almost while I was using it. And I said, I will never do that again, because this is my devotional journal, and I'm writing things in there. Like you have your devotional, and so you write down what you felt God was telling you for the day, and maybe answered prayer and things, you want to see happen and such like that, goals and whatever. And so yeah, I'm like, oh, this is like this is important, so I want to have something nice to represent that. Yeah. And so I started buying nicer journals. Now we're sort of at a mid-grade because
life.
Yes, but they're very, very pretty, and they have the Bible text on the front. And yeah,
it's a good thing to do. Journaling, everyone should journal.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because otherwise it's okay. If you don't, I really suggest it, because you can go back and read stuff that happened any number of years ago, and some of it you would have forgotten, except now you reread it and you're like, oh, wow, really? That was so great.
Yeah, I have a whole box of them in the garage somewhere. They go all the way back to the 90s.
Yeah, get them out and read them.
Yeah. Anyway, to wrap up, because we've been going on.
Okay, so basically God makes our plans for us and makes a list and such like that. But we have it can be expensive sometimes to take his trips rather than ours, because God's list does not look like ours. And in order to do the things on his list, we have to get rid of our list. Like eventually, basically, we need to get rid of all of our list. Our one desire needs to be to serve God and do what he wants us to do. And sometimes, we look at the lists and sometimes we think, been there and done that. And so why bother with it? We want to move on to bigger and better things. So, maybe about 10 years ago by now, I read the book Humility by Andrew Murray, and I highly, highly recommend that book. It's a life changer, I think. It's a lot of good stuff in there, and every time you read it, there's something more. So I read it for the first time about 10 years ago, maybe a little less. And over the years, honestly, over the first few months, and I can't brag about it too much because it was a relatively smallish book, but I went through it about 7 times in the first few months, I think. And
you might want to hand me that juice.
And
thanks. You go on.
Okay.
Listen, Miranda, I'm going to prevent a diabetic coma.
So So every time I would read it, you underline something new because all of a sudden something new just grabs your attention and you understand the meaning of it and such. And eventually, and then, eventually you've underlined a lot of stuff and double underlined stuff and bracketed stuff and highlighted stuff. And I mean, how much more can you do, right? But there was always still some white spots left and I thought, well, every book needs a little bit of simple filler, right? And this guy, Andrew Murray, is a pretty heavy-duty writer. Go ahead and eat your cookie too, please.
Oh.
Is a heavy-duty writer, but I thought, every book needs a little fluffy filler here and there, because it seemed like relatively simple stuff. Well, now, after a bit, I thought, you know what? I'll bet you anything. It's those white spots that I seem to think are so simple and there's really nothing to get out of them. I'll bet they're the ones with the actual real depth in this book, right? And so, honestly, every now and again, I go back to those white spots now and I read them. And sometimes I get it. Oh, I get it. And why? Because God has taken me into on the journey, right? Into more experiences so that I start to understand the depths of that simplicity. Where what I thought was simple before was actually far more depth than I could comprehend, right? So, okay.
That's pretty profound because you think what you're basically saying is the life and the experiences you've had, what God is taking you through, allows you perspective when you look back and you find depth and meaning in the simple. Where at the time,
right?
Maybe but now you're
right. Just like maybe like your journey, like this job here, moved to that job there, and this happens here and that happens there. It seems like everyday living, but when you compile it all together and you look back, you go, oh, well, or something might happen that you look back because of that and start to see more of where God really was leading and such in your life. So basically, when we see God's list and it says those simple old cliche words again, love God and love your neighbor, let's not pass them by on our journey thinking that we already do that and we already know how to do it, because God always has new depths of living out a relationship with Him, and it often shows up in the simplicity of everyday living.
I like that. So looking at the journey of your life, the blank spaces, the trying times, the times when it seems like there's nothing there, or even in the what you think is so basic and simple, look at those again, because there's meaning and depth in those times that we may not have seen the first time. Don't underestimate just living the simple things.
Right.
Because they may seem simple on the surface, but there's actually profound depth.
When we step by faith through the door that God has us, we may not understand why He would want to do that. A simple love your neighbor thing, whatever it might happen to be, right?
Because we say that all the time. You hear it all the time.
Yeah.
It's the greatest commandment: love God and love your neighbor.
Yeah, and so we hear it so often, and it seems so simple. We think we're actually doing it, when in reality we aren't probably living it out quite. Because, well, why do I need to do that? Why? Because it is actually loving God and loving your neighbor when you do it. But see, or what we wonder, why would I do that? But we would do it because God simply tells us that we need to be doing it. So when we step by faith into, through that door and into the room of what God told us to do, we have no idea before that what other doors are in that room that are going to take us into an even deeper relationship with God. But we will never get there unless we do that simple little thing where we're like, well, why would I do that? Oh, I haven't got time for that. Or, whatever. But we would do it simply because God tells us to. And once, like I said, once we do that, before that, we're entirely unaware of the other places that it can take us. We can't see that. Yeah. But God does, and that's why He wants us to simply love Him and love our neighbor, because He's got plans that we don't know anything about. He's got the keys to locked doors.
Yep. Love God, love your neighbor, and love your cat when she sits right on top of things that you don't want them to sit on top of, or roll all over your bed right after you've washed your sheets.
Yes.
All right. Well, that was fun. Thanks for joining us. I could have gone on. I had tons of travel stories, but that was fun. Just
try it again some other time.
Yeah. All right. So thanks for joining us, and I hope you had a good Sabbath and a great week, and Happy New Year, because next time we'll see you, it will already be the New Year, I think. So maybe we'll do something on New Year's and stuff next time. Who knows?
This is not New Year's.
This was about New Year's.
It's a journeying through the
next year. But yeah, that'll be fun. All right.